What's up, everyone? Vu of Envu Films, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch because I'm about to talk to you about a very idiotic camera called the Sony A7C. The C stands for crack that the Sony execs were smoking on when they decided to create the camera, and also when they decided to send the camera for Tony Northrup to review. But that is not the part of this discussion. Of course, I don't have the camera here, and I'm about to talk to you about a camera I've never touched before, I never tried before, which makes me a total YouTube douchebag trash. But that's what I am, so here it goes. Essentially, the A7C is this, the Sony A7 III. Same camera I'm filming with right now. Other than it circumcised the viewfinder and then put it to the corner, and it has a flippy screen, slightly better autofocus, only one SD card slot, and that's pretty much all I can really think of. And it has unlimited recording, which is probably the only thing that is tickling me a little bit about it. But other than that, it's pretty much a camera that should have been released 18 years ago. To me, it's a very questionable camera. I guess they pretty much released the Sony A7 III that they took most of the things people complained about the Sony A7 III, the flip screen, some of the autofocus issues in terms of like when you're plugging in a monitor, such as what I'm doing right now. And when I plug in the monitor, autofocus, the face tracking autofocus on 4K turns off. So I'm just relying on like autofocus dead center. So as soon as I move out of center, I should go out of focus. Did it? Kind of. Now I'm back in focus. So pretty much anything in the middle is in focus right now. The new camera obviously has a new autofocus system, the same system the Sony A7S III has, and pretty much all of the newer Sony cameras have, which is amazing. And even if you do plug in a monitor, you don't lose face and eye detect, but you don't really need that anymore, of course, because you have the flip screen that comes out. Great for videos like this, and probably better for most angles, when you're doing filmmaking or photography, etc., etc. A person like me would look into this camera because I am trying to find a good solution for B cam for my Sony A7S III, because it's very unnecessary, very wasteful, in my opinion, of a very powerful camera to pretty much buy it only to use as a B camera on the side that you don't even use everything it's used for. What I'm saying is, if Sony A7S III is my main driver, my main camera, which means the camera that is on me most of the time, a cam that I'm shooting like the majority of my work with, let's say, for example, wedding films, that one camera would be used 4K 60, 4K 120, 10-bit, all of that stuff, right? Used to its maximum potential. If I have a B cam, I'm going to spend $3,500 on a Sony A7S III B cam, which I'll probably need 2 or 3 of if I'm going to do it properly. And all it's going to be used for is 4K 24, 10-bit. If I end up buying 4 A7S IIIs, 3 of them would just be kind of tripod cameras because they're just for multi-angles during like a wedding or something like that. So that is extremely wasteful to me. So I've been just like in this hunt for the right B cam for my Sony A7S III. And right now I'm just sticking with my A7 III. And I was looking at this A7C as possibly that because it should have the newer updated color science, which is very slightly different than what the A7 III is. And I was just hoping that it would be at least like the Panasonic S5 with some kind of cropped 4K 60 or something like that. I don't even need 4K 60 in this camera. All I need is 10-bit to matter of fact. And I was hoping for at least that 4K 24 10-bit. Sony didn't have to do anything but just put 10-bit in there so that it would at least match closely to what my Sony A7S III main camera does. For $2,000, it's fine. It's better than paying $3,500 for most specs that I will not use on that camera for most situations because they're just B or C or D cams. Sony is just trying to give most people who are satisfied with A7 III specs the opportunity to use it as some type of vlog cam. I really don't know what the market is for vloggers and people who film themselves. I would assume that it's a very niche market, is not as big as, say, just regular photographers, regular mom and dads, regular, you know, aunts and uncles who like to photograph and get in your way at weddings. I think that's a bigger market, but I could be wrong. So for the most part, I think Sony's decision to make this camera with these current specs that it has is a bit baffling, considering, like I said, the Panasonic S5 has pretty much way better video specs, probably a little bit more expensive. Like, I wouldn't have mind spending a little bit over 2,000 for the body if it had 4K 10-bit. But I'm going to assume that Sony execs aren't sitting there like, oh, what would a good B cam be like for Sony A7S III? I'm pretty sure they just prefer that I bought 4 A7S IIIs. I just feel bad having such a powerful camera just sitting in my like camera box all the time, because I'm really only going to use one a lot. So yeah, will I be getting one? I really don't know. I'm really thinking about like when does the A7 IV come out? You know, and looking at this being $1,800, I'm gonna assume the A7 IV is gonna be 22, 24, and is that gonna have 10-bit? I really don't know. And you know, I do have weddings this year. I could theoretically just keep using the A7 IIIs. The one thing that does, like I said, that really does entice me about the A7C is the fact that it does unlimited recording. It probably doesn't have, you know, any overheating issues. I've never really had any issues with A7 III, but I heard some people have issues with it. So right now, all of my cameras other than the A7S III are limited up to 30-minute recording. So I have the R3 and two A7 IIIs, and you know, most weddings I probably need like 3 cameras, but some weddings I do need 4, and that fourth one needs to be able to record the entire time without stopping. And that would be what I would use the A7C for. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to, you know, what am I going to have? I'm going to have A7 III. I'm going to have A7S III, A7 III, A7R3, and one A7C just for those longer duration stuff. I mean, I've been able to get by with, you know, just making sure that I turn off the record and re-record it. But, you know, it would be nicer just to have one that sits there. So that's something to think about. I really don't know what you guys' thoughts are. Just let me know in the comments below. I'm sure most of you are I'm sure a lot of you are probably in the same boat as me, who pre-ordered A7S III and are just like, I kind of need a B, C, D cam, but I'm not sure if, you know, the A7 III is gonna like match the colors well, etc. And I mean, and it probably will. You could definitely match the colors, but you know, the image quality, you know, if you really look at it, it probably won't be there. I mean, it's kind of like comparing a A6600 to the A7 III. I noticed immediately, because before I used to shoot these types of videos with the Alpha 6600. Now I've been doing it with A7 III, and in editing these clips, the A7 III just has a lot more like dynamic range. There's a lot more. It holds together the image better. And I'm going to assume it's going to be just as big of a deal when you're looking at 10-bit versus 8-bit Sony. And that's my concern, especially, you know, I'm going to go back to weddings again, because a lot of times you're shooting in really lighting that's not ideal. And if I'm using, my B cam is not an A7S III, and let's say I'm using A7C for the bride portrait shot and the groom portrait shot, that 10-bit would be very useful when the lighting is not the best. So I could like push and pull the colors a little bit. Without the 10-bit, without the extra bit rate, you know, most of my film was going to look really good. And then my bride and groom cams aren't going to look as pleasing. It'll look fine. It has never really failed me, but you know, while I'm editing, I'll probably notice that it's not going to look as nice. Client probably won't, but I will. So that's always a concern. Other than that, guys, just I don't know. I think Sony just made a kind of an odd decision making this camera as it is. Like, I'm sure it'll sell some, but at the same time, I feel like, you know, missing custom buttons and things like that is kind of a bit of a misstep. But let me know in the comments below what you think. You know, these are my thoughts on it. So that is it for today. Till next time, guys. Lighten up.